Okay, so the only difference from yesterday's, or I guess Monday's and today's, because yesterday we just practiced op notes, is now we're dealing with cubes versus just quadratics. So if you look, it says solving by factors with a degree greater than 2. Well, most of them are going to be cubes. But if you think about it, pretty much all we're dealing with is cubes. But if you were to graph a cube, I don't know if y'all remember what cubes look like. You can have one solution because it can look like this. Yes? Do you remember what cubes look like? Does that ring a bell? Okay, you can also, if it shifts down a little bit, you can have two solutions. You see where it touches here and then just at the bottom of that. And then you can also have 3 solutions if it shifts down even further. Do y'all see the difference? So you can have 1, 2, or 3 solutions. Most of what we're going to deal with has 3 solutions. I think there's a couple that might have 2, but for the most part they all have 3 or 2. Yes? Okay, but that's just kind of remind you, we're looking for our x-intercepts, so we're looking for where it touches the x-axis, and we're just solving for it because they're not pretty. So we have to actually solve, and that's why we're not just looking at the graph. Okay, so all the steps, y'all, I want you to realize if you read through this, it's the exact same steps as yesterday. Nothing has changed. We just have a third factor. Okay, so if we look, let's look at number 1. It says solve and factor the following. Well, first off, number 1 says equation must equal 0. How do I make this equal 0? Yeah, I'm going to move the 18x. Why are we going to move the 18 and not the 8? Because if we make the 8 negative, we are going to have to take a negative out. And if you don't want to deal with a negative exponent, you see, or not a negative exponent, sorry, a negative GCF, you want to move the smaller exponent, yes? So now I have 8x cubed minus 18x equals 0. Now what do I do? What is my GCF? 2x. Okay, they both have an x, and they're both even, so I know 2 goes into both of them, and they both have an x, so 2x. When I take that 2x out, well, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 3 minus 1 is 2. Minus 18 divided by 2 is 9. And the x's cancel. Now, what can I do to keep going? It's perfect square minus perfect square, yeah. So remember, when they're perfect square minus perfect square, we call that difference of 2 squares. That's your a minus ba plus b. Do you remember that? Okay, and you're not going to be dealing with any perfect cube minus perfect cube or perfect cube plus perfect cube, because do you remember when we were doing that, your trinomial was always prime? Okay, so we're not going to be dealing with those today. So what squared minus what squared gives me the inside of that parentheses? Yeah, 2x gives me 4x squared. Well, 2x squared gives me 4x squared. And 3 squared gives me 9. Yes? So A is 2x and B is 3. Are we okay with that? So my GCF, I'm going to bring it over. And then I'm going to do my A minus B, A plus B. So that's literally the only difference from yesterday, is our GCF had an x with it. So that does make a difference because we have 3 factors that have a variable. When you have a GCF and it has a variable, you can't just ignore it kind of like we did yesterday. When you have just 2, so say we didn't have the x and it was just 2, well 2 equals 0 doesn't give me anything. But 2x equals 0 does. So now when we separate them and set all of our factors equal to 0 to solve, I get 3 solutions, 3 intercepts, yes? So divide by 2, and I get x equals 0. Here I'm going to add 3, I get 2x equals 3. divide by 2, and I get 3/2. Pretty much. And I get -3/2. So, -3/2, 0, +3/2. Because remember, we tried to write them in least to greatest form. So it's really not different from what it was before. Okay, so I'm not going to do number 3 with you. I'll talk about it, but we're not going to do it just because it's the same thing. Number 3, we are going to do number 2. But it gets excessive. Okay, look at number 2. What do we need to do? Move that -18x squared. How do I move a -18x squared? Add it. So what I do to one side, I have to do the other. And where am I going to put it? Beginning, middle, or end? Or does it have a like term? Middle. Does it have a like term? No. So it's just we're going to squeeze it in the middle. Why are we squeezing it into the middle? Yeah, because we want it in order. So that gives me 5x to the cubed, 5x cubed, plus 18x squared, plus 9x equals 0. And now it's in order, and I don't have to reorder it. Okay, if we just put it at the end, now we would have to flip-flop order, and that just saves us a step. Okay, what is my GCF? X. Does it have a number GCF? No, because 5 doesn't go into 18 or 9, and 5 is prime, so the only other number that goes into 5 is 1, and it's not worth taking out a 1. Technically, we are taking out a 1x, so we're already doing that. So when I take out an x, they all just have 1x less, so that becomes 5x squared plus 18x plus 9. How do I keep going? The x with the box, because this is now a trinomial. I have 3 terms. So I have to do the box for the inside so I can keep going. What's my A? B?
18.
C?
9.
A times C on top, B on bottom.
45.
And then B is 18. So again, just a refresher on the calculator trick. If you don't know, top number divided by x, top number divided by x plus x. And then you go to your table and you're looking for your bottom number in y2. So there's 14. There it is. So it's 3 and 15, both positive. So A is 5x cubed. C, not cubed, dang it, squared. My bad. C is 9. I literally told y'all, like, don't make that mistake yesterday, but here I am. Okay, and then my split B. So positive 3x, positive 15x. And now we have to GCF it. Does 3 go into 5? So 3 is prime, so it's just x, or 1x. Okay, 9 does not go into 15, but what goes into 15 and 9?
3.
And if you didn't know that, remember, in your calculator, you could do math, write 9, and your calculator will help you with your GCFs. In your calculator, it does call it GCD. Okay, does 5 go into 15?
Yes.
And they both have an x, so 5x. Does 3 go into 9?
Yes.
And it's positive, so positive 3. So now I have x, and then I have x plus 3, and then I have 5x plus 3. And again, I have 1, 2, 3 factors that have a variable, so I have to separate and set them all equal to 0. So I get x equals 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and 5x plus 3 equals 0. So x equals 0, I don't have to do anything to that. So minus 3, x equals negative 3. So I have these. Now, if you have fractions and you're not sure which one's smaller, because we're going least to greatest, you can divide them and it'll give you a decimal. So negative 3 is smaller than negative 0.6. And then 0 is the biggest. Any questions with this? Yes. 0 is a solution. You have to put it in or you're wrong. Okay, look at number 3. One thing I do want to tell you. On this one, you do already have one of your factors. Okay, but you have to figure out your other two factors here. So you have 3x plus 2, and then you'll have to do the box for this to figure out your other two factors before you set them all equal to 0. Yes?
We have to do this right
No. I'm just saying if you had to solve this one. I'm just explaining it. Okay, I do want to look at a couple things on your practice, though. You don't have to do that one. I just wanted to talk about it. Okay, you can still do them in the calculator if A is 1 after you take out your GCF, or if your first term is 1. So, like, which one of these has your first terms are 1? Number 4. So number 4, can that be a calculator problem? Yes. What other one? 5, because both of them, their first terms are 1. Okay, and then we're going to look at number 2. So look at number 2. What do I do first? It's already equal to 0.
GCF?
What is my GCF?
3.
3x. So I'm going to divide out my 3x. And when I take the 3x out, what am I left with? X squared minus 4. Now, what did A become?
So you put
1. So can I do this in the calculator? Yes. Now, this is what I want to show you. When you do this in the calculator, you have to type the whole thing. You cannot just type part of it. You have to type the whole thing. You cannot forget the GCF, because the GCF has an x, which is part of your answer. Yes? So when I come here, you can also type what was given to you, 3x cubed minus 12x, but 3x parentheses x squared minus 4. See what I typed? I typed what after I took out the GCF. I'm going to hit graph first. Why did I hit graph first?
so you can see how many times I did.
How many times does it touch? 3. So second graph, I'm looking for 3 answers, one of which was negative. There's my negative. So my answer is the x value when y is 0. Do I care when x is 0? No, only if y is 0 at the same time. Okay, so x is negative 2, and then 0, and then positive 2. So there's my 3 solutions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
No?
That asked good. Is that
What don't you get?